coming tomorrow? السلام عليكم.
أنا here. I'm here. I'm here. أنا هنا. Oh. مش وقت.
كان برنسبل كان هو في الهاي سكول.
Yeah. والآن هاي سكول برنسبل in Boston.
من بوسطن now؟
Yeah.
طلعوه هنا.
أكثر من هنا. مؤسسة أكبر. بتسجل. عمر, you want to start?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. My name is Omar Kushaka. I am a graduate of Malden High School, class of 2012, and I am honored to introduce this workshop and this panel especially. We have joining us today two very special guests on this panel right now and the third after to speak about the very important issue of bullying and how we approach bullying through socio-emotional and psychological care. One of our panelists here today is Miss Lilian Patino. She's a clinical social worker from the Elliott Center in Everett, and she lives and went to school in Malden as well. Thank you, Ms. Patino. Our next and our initial speaker is Dr. Dana Brown. He is in his first year in Boston Public Schools, and he is serving as the principal for the Dearborn STEM Academy, which is the newly built public school in Boston. Last year, Mr. Brown served as the interim principal at Holyoke, and before that, he served as the principal for Malden High School, where he served for 13 years, from 2003 to 2017. He was named as the Principal of the Year by the Massachusetts Secondary School Administrator Association. He is somebody that I hold in very high esteem and regard. He brings knowledge of many current issues facing young people today, including social, emotional learning, bullying, and harassment. Mr. Brown is a very special person in the community. If you ask anybody who went to Malden High about one of their defining experiences, about the defining characters, they will undoubtedly tell you that Mr. Brown was one of the most important people. And he's not a person who likes a lot of thanks, and so I'm going to embarrass him. I don't mean to embarrass him, but I truly do mean that he's a very special person in the community and somebody who a lot of young people look up to. So without further ado, we'll have Mr. Brown give us a couple words.
Thank you. After that,
Push the button.
after that, I can go home now. So I like to make this interactive. I like to make this meaningful for you, not necessarily for me. In 2013-14, Malden High School, we started to see an increasing number of students with anxiety, with depression, with anger, and we saw an increase in harassment, we saw an increase in bullying. We saw an increase in civil rights violations, quite frankly. And so we decided as a school, and then as president of the Principals Association for the state of Massachusetts, we decided as a state back in 2014-15 to make social emotional learning, social emotional wellness a focus across the state for young people. Because Malden High School wasn't the only school seeing these things. In fact, high schools and middle schools and elementary schools all over Massachusetts and the country were seeing increases in child anger, anxiety, depression. So we did some things at Malden High School to help young people. We made sure we had enough licensed social workers. So when I started, we had 2 licensed social workers at Malden High School. When I left, we had 6. We made sure we created great partnerships with Elliott, one of the local community organizations that we partnered with Cambridge Health Alliance, with others, with folks who could provide our students and families with the support they needed around mental health, around social and emotional learning. We have a long way to go. Part of it is around education. Educating young people, but also educating faculty, staff, principals, and educating families. So I want you to think, as I talk for a few minutes, about this question and some of the answers. Who influences your child? Who influences your child?
The classmates.
Classmates, the parent, the mother,
Teachers.
the father, the teachers, the counselors, the religious leaders, the neighbors, grandmother, grandfather.
Social media.
I just gave you the good list. Now, who influences your child?
Internet.
Peers, classmates, who sometimes aren't always saying or doing the right thing. Television, radio, movies, video games, any kind of media. I am telling this because I know this. Some of you in this room don't know what your children are listening to or watching or seeing when they're not with you. Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. There are so many social media that students, young people are using. I work in a school that is grades 6 through 12. Almost every single student in the building owns one of these. And everyone knows what this is, right? What is this? It's not a phone. It's a computer. It's one of the world's fastest and most efficient computers. It can connect you with anyone in the world at any time and any place. That's a great thing when you're in school and you want to research what's being done to cure cancer, what's being done to get somebody to Mars, what's being done to solve math's only unsolved algorithm. It's all here. You know what else is here? High school students sending nude pictures of themselves to high school students 3 classrooms down the hallway. What are some of the messages people hear at home? Work hard, do the right thing, believe in your God, study, treat everyone well. Those are the messages a lot of us as parents give to our children every day. I can assure you, those aren't the same messages that your children are getting every day when they're not with you. I can assure you, I've seen it. I've seen it in text messages. I've seen it in Snapchats. I've seen it in pictures. I wish you would die. Why don't you go back to where you came from? Some of the messages people are hearing today are, people different than you are bad. The world is bad. Do what you want. Do what feels good to you. There is no hope. The future is pretty bleak. Young people hear this over and over and over again through social media, movies, video games, their friends, their classmates. And, as it sometimes is in our own families, sometimes from family members that we don't necessarily want our children to spend a lot of time with, because their message is not a good one either. We all have to own that. We all have to realize that it's not just TV and movies and radio and the internet and the bad kid sitting next to my kid. Sometimes it's us. We have to be mindful of that. The research is pretty clear, and I have experts here, far more expert than me. The research is really clear. The human brain does not fully develop until somebody is in their early 20s. Fully developed brain. And yet, we give powerful computers to 10-year-olds, to 11-year-olds, to 17-year-olds. And so, if they see something, a bad message, a picture, they don't have the cognitive ability to take a step back, stop, think, what should I do? Who should I tell? He sends me a bad text message, what do? I send him a bad one right back. Have you seen people who sit there like this? They get a text, they text right back. There's no thought. Somebody says something bad about me, I can say something worse about you. This is the society our students are growing up in. This is who we are today. So we have to be mindful. Now, there are things that, because of things that happened in Massachusetts, laws have changed. Back in 2009, which really wasn't that long ago, was it? So almost 10 years ago, a 10-year-old young boy in Springfield, Massachusetts, about 100 miles from here, 10-year-old boy hung himself at home. His mother came home to find him hanging because he could not take the torment and the teasing and the picking on from his classmates. So he hung himself. And then the most famous Massachusetts case, which happened in 2010, is the Phoebe Prince case from South Hadley High School, South Hadley, Massachusetts, not far from Springfield. She came here with her family from Ireland to seek a new life. White girl with freckles and red hair, didn't fit in to the high school community that she was in. And her classmates texted her and harassed her and bullied her incessantly and posted things on Facebook constantly until she also hung herself. And because of those, really because of those two events, the governor at the time, or soon-to-be governor, Governor Deval Patrick, changed the laws of Massachusetts, produced laws that the legislature agreed to, that now every school in Massachusetts must have regulations and rules and systems in place around bullying and harassment, hate crimes. It was always part of the law, but now we had to bring it into school. So let me try to give you, in simple terms, some of the things that may happen which could help you as a parent. If we're classmates, or we're walking down the hall in a school, and I look at her and say, "Wow, I don't like the way you look today. You're ugly." And I walk away, and I never see her again in the school. That's not bullying. That's not a hate crime. That's really poor behavior. It's being a jerk if you're in the high school. But I didn't commit a crime. And really, schools would have trouble punishing me or disciplining me for what I just said. So parents, I need you to understand that if somebody teases your child or picks on your child or says something about your child, it doesn't necessarily rise to bullying or harassment right away. Now, I'll give you a scenario which I lived through at Malden High School. We start a relationship. We're dating. She's 16, I'm 16, we like each other. We start dating. And then after some time, because she's in high school, and because her brain isn't fully developed yet, she doesn't like me anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to take that. So what do? I go to her locker every morning. I follow her to every class. I yell at her when I see her with another boy. Every day I do these things that make her feel uncomfortable, unsafe. She doesn't like the attention anymore. I have crossed a line. I have crossed a line. Could be I've crossed a sexual harassment line. But clearly, I'm violating her rights by what I'm doing. In the cafeteria, a student is sitting by himself every day. And every day, 3 young students walk over to that student and throw pieces of their lunch at him, laugh at him. One day they poured milk on him. Every day. Those students have now crossed the line. They are now bullies by law. They have now crossed the bullying line. They are now in violation of school, state, and federal law. School rule and state and federal law. Because it wasn't a one-time thing. If she doesn't like me because I'm a total jerk and she pours the milk over my head one time, the principal will probably talk to her, give her an hour detention after school, say, don't ever do that again, stay away from him, let it go. If somebody is bothering somebody at lunch every day, that's bullying. That's when adults need to take action. Now, 100 years ago, when I went to school, that's how students got bullied, because we didn't have these. You really couldn't use your parents' home phone without permission to call somebody else. So the way bullying happened 50 years ago was just as I described. You went into the cafeteria, somebody was sitting by themselves, and every day you made fun of them. Ah, look alone, you have no friends, and you pour milk over them, you throw food, and you do that every day. That's how young people got bullied when I was in school. This changed everything. So now, that young person that's sitting by himself or herself at lunch sometimes may not find out for a week or two who's bullying them. Because 3 kids are sitting over in the corner of the cafeteria and they're sending pictures around the school to their friends. Look who's sitting by himself at lunch again. He's such a loser. And they post it to Facebook, they post it to Instagram, they post it to Snapchat, Twitter. So now kids around the school are laughing when they see this young man, this young man, this young man, that young woman, because she's sitting by herself. And everybody in the school now knows she's sitting by herself because a couple of kids just took pictures and posted. That's bullying. You're in violation of school rule and state law. Young people today don't understand the consequences of their actions. Remember, their brains aren't fully developed. Young people today are saying things through this that they would never say to you in person. Sometimes they will, many times they won't. But they can type things and text things a lot faster. Cyberbullying is a crime. Bullying somebody through your phone or through your computer is a crime. It's not, you'll get 3 hours of detention with the principal. It's a crime. It's not, don't do that again. It's a crime. Following the girl around the school from class to class, meeting her at her locker every day, after she has told you over and over and over again, I don't like you, leave me alone. It's a crime. Young people today, because of what they see in videos, in movies, in TV, don't understand that if 2 people think the other is attractive and they don't know each other, I can't reach over and rub the back of her head and say, wow, I find you attractive. That's a crime. I don't know her. She doesn't want that attention. Young people are struggling with that today because of what they see in media. They think it's okay. I've seen kids at the middle school, high school level slap the backsides of other students. Doesn't matter whether it's boy on boy, boy on girl, girl on girl, girl on boy. You can't touch. You can't touch. That's a violation of school rule, state law, federal law. The person did not ask you for that attention. I think, for me, if you find yourself in a situation where you know of a young person who is struggling, either with a mental health issue, anxiety, depression, loneliness, anger, there are so many resources that you can reach out for nowadays. You need to reach out and get help. If a young person comes home and says, I'm being harassed in school, I'm being picked on, this is what I tell young people. You have to tell somebody. I want you to go home and tell your parent. Thank you for telling me as the principal. I want everybody to know. Tell a parent, tell a relative, tell the principal, tell a counselor, tell a therapist. And if need be, tell the police. Nobody deserves to be picked on, harassed, bullied, unwanted sexual attention. Nobody deserves that. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I think I'll go to school today, or I think I'll go to work today so I can be picked on, so somebody can bully me or make fun of me. I don't know anyone who wants that. So when it happens, we have to report it. And what I also tell young people is, if somebody sends you something that's inappropriate on the phone or on the computer, take a screenshot of it, save it, and report it to somebody. And say, this is what somebody has been saying about me via text. This is what somebody has been saying about me on Snapchat. You have now a legal document in your hand, a record of that harassment, or that bullying, of that crime. Without it, it's just my word against your word. He said this. Oh, he said this. Do you have any record of that? Can you show me where he did it? No. Nah, that's not going to work. Parents with young children, parents with high school age children, you have to figure out 2 ways to talk to your children. Talk to them, talk with them. When you talk to them, you're the parent, they're 9 years old, you tell them what to do. It's not a discussion. I don't want you looking at those things on your phone. I don't want you watching those types of movies. I don't want you playing those games. It's not a debate. It's a discussion of you telling them what to do. When you have high school students, it gets a little trickier, it gets a little harder. Then we want you to talk to them and with them. So tell me what's going on in school today. Oh, nothing much. No, you always say that to me. I really want to talk to you about what's going on in school today. Nothing. I'm your father. I'm not going to sit here and you're not going to say nothing anymore. I'll sit here until midnight tonight. We'll have milk and cookies or whatever we're going to have, but you and I are going to have a conversation. Dad, leave me alone. No, because I really want to know what's happening in your life. If you don't want me to know some stuff, don't tell me. But I really want you to, who are your friends? I am shocked, and I'm picking on some of you, and I don't mean to pick on some of you. There are people in this room tonight who don't know the first and last name of their children's friends. Or the parent's name. Who are you on the phone with? Billy. What's Billy's last name? I don't know. Then how do you know it's Billy? How do you know Billy's not 29 years old? Who are you on the phone with? My friend Susie from school. Where does Susie live? I don't know. Can I go over her house? No. I blame us for a lot of things wrong with our kids today. I don't blame kids who are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. Their brains aren't fully formed yet. I blame a lot of us in this room. We're the adults. We get to decide what our kids do. We should be telling our students what to do, not the other way around. We have kids now coming to school, in my school in particular, and I spoke about this at a workshop a couple of weeks ago. Kids are coming to school more and more and more than I've ever seen in my lifetime with anger and hopelessness. They don't feel like there's hope for the future, and they're angry. They're angry at the world, they're angry at their own situation, whether it's in school or their neighborhood or their home. But kids are coming to school with anger and without hope. It's up to the adults in the room, it's up to the adults in the community to change that, to give kids hope. To give kids hope. We can make this a better world. And it's up to us to help those kids who are bringing anger to school and to figure out how we can help them deal with whatever they're going through, because it's real. Kids are anxious about going to school. Kids are angry. Kids are in depressions. Those are real things. Those aren't make-believe things. We need to figure out how to help all of the students so that we can have a better world for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Very quickly, before we move on to Mr. Patino, I just wanted to recognize two other folks who are here who are going to be speaking. One is Sister Sumaya Zamna, who's actually in the other room with the young people. She is the Director of Community Advocacy Education from CARE, Massachusetts. And we also have with us Dr. Ben Herzig, who is a psychologist in private practice here sitting in the front, and a scholar at the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. He will be speaking after Isha, inshallah, which is at 7:30, on how we can help vulnerable Muslim youth. So without further ado, Ms. Lilian Patino, just to read her bio again for people who came in, is a clinical social worker from the Elliott Center in Everett, Massachusetts. She lives and went to school in Malden.
Thank you. Good evening. And thank you so much for having me. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to give you different perspectives. I really want to talk about my experience as an immigrant, and my experience as a person of color, and my experience as a woman who has a faith, and my experience as a mother, as a wife, and my experience, all of that is going to be combined with my clinical experience in my current job. I am the director of a community center where I see a lot of people from many different backgrounds. So I'm going to try to put all of that together, so bear with me. I am from Colombia, and that's where my accent comes from. And my kids, they went to school too, Malden High, and yeah, Mr. Brown was the principal. So of course we were talking about how loud my kids learned and how much they enjoyed the high school. So when I think about culture, I always think about home. So all of us could have a lot of similarities, and all of us could do a lot of things the same way. At the same time, your home is so unique, and what happens in your house doesn't happen any other place. And I remember, again, coming from a different culture, my mom always saying, well, the place where we came from wasn't like this. No, it wasn't. Guess what? Because back there, everybody looked like us, and everybody spoke like us, and everybody ate what we ate, right? And everybody listened to the same music, and pretty much everybody looked and sound pretty much the same. And we come here. And we come here with a bunch of dreams. And we come here with hope. And we come here because we are brave. And we are so brave that we left what's there. And we came here to fight for what we want and what we want to give to our children. But things sometimes don't go the way we expected, right? And sometimes as animals, because we are animals, we like to find comfort in what is similar, right? And that's why we like to move to communities where we can find people who look like us, and we can find food, and we can find comfort. So we, again, this brain and this computer is going to take us back. We know. And then again, home is where we start learning all these little things that make us who we are. And we learn the language, and we learn costumes, and we learn traditions, and we learn how to communicate, how to interact with everybody. And then we send our kids to school. And the idea of a school is not only the educational piece. Of course, we want them to learn how to read, and we want them to learn math and science and how we made it to the moon. But we need to learn social skills. And that's one of the major reasons why we go to school. So when everybody looks kind of the same like us, developing those social skills is kind of easy. Just think about when you're working with people who kind of have the same sense of humor that you have. So you make a joke, everybody's gonna be like, ah, that's so funny, and you're gonna laugh. But when that other person doesn't get that joke, right, then everything in the room kind of changes. So now we live in such an amazing, diverse community that is so rich in color, in language, and uniqueness that honestly, we are so fortunate to have that. Because what our kids have in Malden, there's no other place that has that. At the same time, it's a challenge. Because then, when this child that we love and we're trying to protect and we think that everything is going to be okay, goes to school and someone says to them, I don't want to play with you. Then they're going to come home and we're going to hear, nobody play with me. And we are like, what? How come? Immediately, bullying. They don't like us because we look different. So what I really want to emphasize that communication doesn't start at the high school. Communication starts since we are born. Just think about it. When a child cries, immediately we hold this child up and we make eye contact and we mumble, and moms and dads, we feed and breastfeed and care for this child. That's where communication happens. We make eye contact, we bond, we need that. So when this child goes to school and you pick them up, immediately when the child is coming out of the school, you can say and you can see they're having a good day or if they had a miserable day. Little ones are great at communicating. Oh, I had a bad day, or my friend was mean, or the teacher yelled at me. So that is a great opportunity to say to your child, tell me more. I know we have to rush because we have to cook and we have to clean the house and we have to go back to work. I know. I know. At the same time, try to find teachable moments. And I love that idea, teachable moments. Tell me about your day. How was your friend, the one that you told me the other day that she was coughing a lot? Make up stuff. I always think that the car is the best way, is the best place to have conversations because we're not really looking at each other, so it's easier. Volunteer to pick up your friend, your kids' friends, and then you're gonna hear what they're saying in the back. I remember getting information that my kids had no idea that I was getting because I was the driver. I was the one driving them everywhere when they were in marching band. And I could hear everything that they were saying. And then my kids were like, how do you know? And I was thinking, really? You guys were talking about it. So just think that you have, as Mr. Brown said, the power and the opportunity to hear what your children are saying, to answer what your children are asking. And yes, maybe we come from cultures, and I'm talking about me, where parents didn't really explain a lot. Maybe because we didn't have to. I remember my mother, my dad saying, because I said so. So now, and I know that many of you are shaking your heads because that's what we heard. So it's not about telling kids everything. It's about telling them what they need to know. I said no because the rule in this house is that I don't feel comfortable you sleeping at somebody else's house because I don't know who lives there. And then saying no, and if they keep asking, I gave you the answer already. That is a rule that we have here. So, as humans, we try to push boundaries. That's part of being a human. And when the beautiful stage of being a teenager, when this brain is just trying to push boundaries and do whatever we want, maybe we need to be aware that as parents, we need our kids when they were 5 than when they were 15 because they're changed. So I have to change with them. That means that the day that they talk, maybe I can just sit quietly next to them and watch TV and say, you know what, I'm just so happy that I'm. Maybe asking them questions like, if you're having a bad day at school, who do you think that you can go and talk to? And that was one of the biggest challenge that I found when I was a mental health clinician in one of the schools. That every time that I ask the kids, let's say that I'm not here, who you can go to and talk if you have a concern? I don't know. What about the nurse? What about the guidance counselor in the kitchen that is so nice to you? So ask those questions. Ask, like we, as a person, we need to have at least 8 people that we trust in order to be safe. So that would be a great game to do with your kid. Here you are. What about if you name 8 people that you can trust and you can go to and ask questions if you have a concern? Go into those uncomfortable conversations and have those conversations in a way that is meaningful for your child. We live in a world where, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are not nice. And we live in a culture that we hear and we see things that are not okay. Have those conversations with your child in a way that the conversation is clear. Something as simple as touching. You know your children. I know my children. And if I see that my child jumps on everybody, maybe I'm going to have a conversation and it's going to say, like, you know what? I don't think that your friend likes when you jump on top of them. They might not like it. Have you asked your friend if he's okay with that? Because I noticed that every time you do it, your friend he looked upset to me. Again, teachable moments. If your child's very shy, you can ask, like, you know what? I noticed that every time we go to that place, you don't want to play with anybody. Do you? And maybe we can try to make a new friend. Communication at the high school level. Communication begins at home. Again, we need to adjust to what's happening in your house, and I think that everybody knows what works and what doesn't work. So as we know, when we hear depression, and I know that we hear it a lot, and I think that is a term that many times is just overused. Being sad for a day does not mean depressed. We all have those days when we're just miserable. I have those days when I just want to cry. Right? Even my husband is like, okay, I know. So being upset for one day, not really being depressed. So having a fight with a friend, that's not really being depressed. But when you see behaviors that are becoming very often, so when you see that your child used to eat around the same time every day, now all of a sudden they're not eating. When you see that your child is not communicating or talking to you or their friends or a family member, when you see that your child for a couple of days is crying a lot or isolated, you have to pay attention to those behaviors. You have to. Because mental health is not a joke. It's real. And it happens a lot, especially with the adolescents. So, depression, anxiety, not all the time looks the same. So when we talk about the angry child who's very upset and they want to hit everybody, that might be depression. But again, during the adolescent, it shows us anger. When you have a child that is exposed to trauma, when you have a child that is exposed to substance abuse, when you have a child that is left alone, they have to show somehow that they are not getting their needs met. And then you come to school, I always say, with a backpack full of pain. And you have a teacher telling you, you need to know how much is 2 plus 2, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. At some point, that child is going to explode, and is going to say things that are not nice, right? The other day I picked up my niece from school, and she was saying to say something to the teacher, and the teacher didn't listen to me. And I said, well, do you think that maybe the teacher was having a hard day? Because I can't imagine caring for 30 kids at a time. And we had this whole conversation about how grown-ups, we get tired too. And with the work and school and finances and taking care of everybody, there are days that we need a little break. Have you ever said that to your child? Like, I'm exhausted today. What about if mom has a little break and then we can talk? Or even saying to your child, you know what? I am so sorry that I was mean to you yesterday. I didn't mean to, but I'm having a hard time at work. So just think that communication has to come and go. It has to be a balance. Like I always say, communication is like dancing. If you take a step, I take a step, right? And then we move together. There's nothing worse than dancing with a bad dancer. You get stuck in the middle, right? But when that communication flows, then we're able to move along. We want to make sure that that communication flows with our children. And as Mr. Brown says, we can ask those questions that are important. In my clinical practice, I have seen text messages that I cannot understand. How can someone send a message like that? Horrible things that I don't want to say because the kids are here. And I remember talking to those clients, children with cell phones, asking them the question, do you know who that person is? No. They just sent me a request on Facebook and I said yes. So they just sent me a request on Instagram and I said yes. Does mom knows or dad knows or anybody knows? No. I actually had a case of a child that the person sending the messages was a woman in her 60s. Yeah. And she thought that it was a kid from the school. When you have the power, you have the authority. You're paying for that cell phone, right? So that belongs to you. To check and to see and to monitor everything that is there. Everything that is there. So when your child is very stressed, when your child is very upset, they're not going to be learning. Just think about that day that you're very stressed. Are you able to function at work? Not really. It takes really hard, it's really hard to concentrate on what we need to do when in the back of our head we're thinking about everything that is going bad. So for many kids, coming to school is a struggle because they know what's going to happen. They know that the teacher is going to be yelling at them because they are not learning. And they know that the other kid is not going to play with them because right now they don't want to play. They can't follow rules. So I want to say that communication is the key. So coming from a different culture, there are beliefs that we have that many times, again, we need to adjust in order to protect our children. When a child is angry, there's always a reason. Try to find what the reason is. If your child is miserable in school, I want to say, first of all, reach out to the teacher. Start with the teacher. Make an appointment and say, you know what, this is what I noticed. That my child is upset. Have you noticed anything? Not judging. I want to say that will be the first thing. Do not go to fight. Because if you go to fight, you're going to fight. If you go inside the school and you're telling the principal, because you, oh no, automatically, there's not going to be a nice conversation. But if you start with the teacher, go to the teacher and say, this is what I noticed. And then if the teacher doesn't do anything, send an email. And maybe CC the principal there. And then if anything, maybe reach out to the guidance counselor. And then I want to say like follow them out. Ask questions. Ask your kids' friends, have you noticed that my daughter has changed and behaving different? Have you noticed anything? Again, in order for us to take care of our children, we need support. We need support. Even here, you can ask one of your friends, what about if you ask your daughter, check with my daughter how she's doing? It takes a village to raise a child. Don't forget that. So, as Ms. Around said, when someone is having social emotional needs, the schools can give you support. And IEPs can be based on social emotional needs. So my advice is go to the school where your child attends and ask for support. And the Family Resource Center is a community-based organization who supports parents from all different backgrounds, free services, and we can answer all different questions. We can connect you with mental health services, we can connect you with schools, DCF services, with any kind of services you need, we can do it for free. So again, my name is Lilian Patino. The name of the program is Family Resource Center. It is located at the old Everett High School. We have tons of services. All the services are free and voluntary. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Patino. So we have 15 minutes before Asha for Q&A. Please keep your questions brief and address them to one of the panelists, and we have a mic pass around. So, does anybody have a question? I also have some questions written down, but prefer to come from people who have kids. Any questions? I think there's probably too many, so I know. Choose one. We can wait.
الميكروفون ممكن الأخوات
المايك والله.
المايك.
Can somebody raise their hand?
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you very, very much for all the wonderful speech that both of you delivered today. Thank you, I really appreciate it. It's not a question, but just like a comment that I have. I have a daughter, and she's in first grade, and I've never imagined that she could be facing bullying since kindergarten. And this was something shocking to me. She came, when she was in KG, she came to me and she said, Mama, children would not like to play with me. Many times she repeated that, and she was very sad and told me nobody that likes me. So one of the good things that I did to my daughter, and that's why I would like to share with other parents here, to build confidence in herself and to speak up for herself without me being with her. So she doesn't need me to go and let's make friends, Mama, together. No, or find a new friend. No, you can do that on your own. So I told her that, Mama, every time someone tells you that I don't want to play with you, I don't like you, just tell them you are going to lose a great friend, and I can't play with my own self. So she did that, and it really worked. And she was very happy. She said, like, Mama, I can play with myself. And it was okay until she found a new friend. But that could not cause a pain for her anymore. So she stopped complaining about that. Now in first grade, bullying is continuing, unfortunately, and she many times she came back home and she said, like, Mama, I had a friend who told me, like, I don't like your hair, you don't look beautiful. She said that to her many times. I told her, did you tell the teacher? She said, no, I'm just telling you what happened at school. And because that happened many times, I told her, Mama, you can't tell her that. So the problem is in your eyes. You have to go and check your eyes at the doctor because you don't see things beautiful around you. It's not me who's the one who's not beautiful. It's your eyes who don't see the things around you beautiful. And she did that again, and it really worked. So she stopped talking that someone's saying that you're not beautiful. And the last thing about the food, because I sent food from home, cooked food, and students at the cafeteria, they said like, oh, yeah, that looks yucky. I don't like it. I told her, you just tell them my mom is the best cook ever in the world, and they love her food. So it's not your business whether you like it or not. It's my mom's food. And she did that again, and it really worked. So yeah, this is what I had to do, how to deal with bullying in school.
And again, I think that when you talk about diversity, like beauty is such a, all of us have a different perception.
Yeah.
The same as food, all of us have a different taste.
Yeah.
So even talking about all the things that make you you, and we're so unique, and you're so special, and your friend is beautiful in her own way, and you're beautiful in your own way, and you take it from there. Thank you for sharing.
10 minutes left.
Yes.
The mothers have all the problems.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for the enlightening speech. And my name is Wafa Habi, and I actually work with some youth as well. I have a youth group. One of the things that I noticed, especially with the girls, you know, at certain age, they put the hijab. It's their decision, they come to it and they put. So when they go to school, I have a couple of girls that they were very excited to have it, you know, on and all that. You know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks after school, they don't come to the program, and then I'm checking on them, and they're shy to show up, and they're like, oh, we took it off. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, there's no problem with that. So, but why did you do it? She's like, I just cannot deal with the comments that I hear in school. And you mentioned earlier that it's illegal when it's repetitive from one specific person. But what are the regulations when it comes to they're being bullied by different people? Like some of them, they snatch the hijab, they just pull it out from their hair. And these girls, they still want to fit in, so they don't want to be snitched. So they don't report it, they don't tell their parents, they don't tell, you know, the administration, because they don't want to be called, you know, names again. So how can we help these students?
Well, you can help in a couple of ways. First of all, I wasn't clear enough, and let me be clearer. On the weekends when I'm not in school, and if I was home right now, I'd be wearing a baseball cap, right? Celtics or Patriots or Red Sox, I'd like to wear baseball caps. Now, if my next door neighbor sees me out raking and he knocks my baseball cap off, fooling around, right? He hasn't done anything to me that would constitute harassment or crime or anything. But the ladies wear, much like a yarmulke on a Jewish person, right? That's religious. That's different. That's a crime when a young person pulls the religious wear off of somebody else, especially if there is intent. Now, if it's an accident, and it's a 7-year-old doing it to a 7-year-old, and they're just playing around and they don't know what they're doing, we can have restorative conversations. We can try to repair that. But when you're in high school, students know what they're doing at 15, 16, 17, and in many cases they know what this represents. So if they yank it off, that should be reported to somebody. Because you can't do that. You can't do that in Massachusetts. You can't do that in the United States. Many years ago in Massachusetts, there was a high school rule that said Muslim girls could not play basketball because the rule in basketball is you cannot wear anything on your head. No hats, nothing on your head. Well, the rule was challenged at the court level, and now Muslim girls are playing high school basketball with the headgear on, which makes sense because that's part of their religion. So if it happens, it should be reported, number one. Number two, there are cases where, and I don't like using this word, but I'll use it. In some cases, young people and old people like me, we are ignorant, okay? I had a moment earlier this evening, and I wrote myself a note in my notebook. I felt ignorant because I did not take my shoes off when I came in. and I needed to be reminded that my shoes needed to come off. That's not your issue, right? That's my issue that I didn't understand that. So part of it is educating young people about what it means to touch somebody's headwear, what it means. It's the same if we had a Christian girl at Malden High School who was wearing a cross and somebody yanked the chain off her neck. You have to report it. It's not good. So please, educate, but also report. Don't let it keep happening over and over and over again.
Thank you.
What do you do when the bully is your own kid? I mean, so how do you deal with it?
That's a great question, because that's a parent's worst nightmare. So much like when you have mental health issues, and sometimes we want to keep everything home, and we want to put it all in the closet, and we don't want any of our relatives to know, or our friends to know that there might be something going on with our child and they need help. They need to see a clinician, they need to see a psychiatrist, a therapist, they need help. Sometimes families don't like to do that because that's not a great moment for them, they think. That's what a parent thinks. Same thing when your child is doing something in school and you find out it's your child and not everyone else. That it's your son who keeps pulling the girl's hair every day and stealing the kid's pencils every day, and he's also bothering that other kid every day. It's your son. As a parent, you feel terrible. Sometimes you want to just close it in and do everything at home. I would say ask for help. Don't try to do this on your own. Get help. Go to the school counselor, go to the school social worker, the school principal, and say, I need help. That's not being weak, that's being very strong. Admitting that something just isn't happening, something isn't working, I need help. And there are resources out there, there are very talented people out there, the doctor, clinicians, there are people who can help young people figure out strategies and ways to think and all sorts of ways to change their behaviors so that parents will be happy with that.
So definitely counseling is a key. And as clinicians, we will never tell your child what to do. You're just gonna find ways to deal with those emotions, ways to communicate those emotions. And something that we always we have to, is be very aware of the family's backgrounds and the family's religions. And as parents, you can actually advocate for what kind of clinician do you want. You can say, I want a male, or I want a female, or I want someone who speaks my language, or I would like someone from the same culture. And I want to say agencies, they really try to match you and your child with a person that will be more beneficial for you. Counseling services, most of them are covered by insurance. And then there are different options. There are outpatient clinics where you can actually take your child. But there are many in-home services. And many of the in-home services, which I think are fantastic, they actually come to your house and they work with you. Because again, as a clinician, I just spend 45 minutes with my client. You are the one who's living with this child. You're the one who's trying to build this person. And we all parents, we have the same hope, right? We just want good people. So at the end of the day, we as clinicians, we need to have that communication, and we're gonna make sure that you guys are happy. And the other part of it is, if you get a clinician that doesn't work for your family, don't feel bad letting it go. And when you get a new barber and you don't like it, you say, forget it, I'm not going back there. Right? So do the same thing. You need to have a relationship with the person that is working with your family.
You have a family resource center in Malden like you have in Everett?
So the family resource centers, they are state funded. So they are funded by the government and the Department of Children and Family. So the only one in this area is located in Everett, but it's open to everybody. So we are located inside the old Everett High School, but anybody can come, and as I mentioned, it's free services, and even for a child, let's say that is having behavioral issues, we have a clinician on site who's able to do a clinical assessment and then talk to you to see what kind of services would you like for your child. And we make the referrals. Like if the family doesn't have insurance, we're gonna help you with services. So we will guide you on where can you go to get insurance. And connect you with other services. And if you want, even connecting our school liaison, who's the person in charge of working with the family and the school. So we are located at 548 Broadway in Everett, but this is for anybody regardless of the place where they live. Sure.
Does anybody have any questions before we break for prayer?
Thank you for your speech, and I have a question, please. Do you have a card?
I do have my card. I'm gonna give it to you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having us.
So we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll start prayer at 7:35 sharp, and we'll have the next session right after prayer, which will be very good, and with Dr. Ben Herzig. Thank you, Mr. Brown and Ms. Patino, again.
هلا
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا